Good.
Yep.
What time?
It is 5:49.
All right, I'm gonna declare the public hearing open at 5:49 p.m. This is a public hearing to discuss the Crestwood Drive water main installation project in accordance with the requirements of Borough Ordinance number 133. Water main extension and assessment, section 19-17 in Article 2, Water, Chapter 19, Utilities Code to the ordinances, etc. So this project consists of the installation of 3,340 feet of ductile iron pipe and the following items for participating residents. In other words, those who elect to tie in. Laterals from the water main to the curb, aligned to the foundation wall and well abandonment. 5 fire hydrants will also be installed. A legal notice of this hearing has been published in the Waterbury Republican and American on April 27th and May 4th of this year. There is a recording of this hearing. Everyone will be given an opportunity to speak. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of the project and some of the background and basic items. I'm then going to turn it over to Craig Potler from the Connecticut Water Company, who will go into more detail on the cost items, what's going to happen. And then Santiago Bolanos, also from Connecticut Water Company, is here. So after we speak, the public will be given an opportunity to comment. I would also note that we do have a representative from the Connecticut Department of Health online to be involved if necessary. But we will then take comments from the public. We will also take questions. We have received some emails with some fairly technical questions. So our team from the Connecticut Water Company will address those questions and any other questions that come up. Now, remember, you know, the Borough of Naugatuck in this case is really a conduit. In other words, this is a partnership between the residents and the Connecticut Water Company with assistance from the borough and the state. So the borough has gone to great lengths to obtain the best deal we can for the residents by way of state and federal grants and participation from the Connecticut Water Company. So when we first started this project, and we had a hearing in this room, there were a lot of questions. And we were talking about a project that could have costed around $17,000 per household. And that's without well abandonment, laterals, and things of that nature. So since that time, we have applied everywhere. We've worked with the state. The state has been very helpful with us on obtaining grants and funding. And the Connecticut Water Company has been very helpful. And we still don't have exact numbers because we haven't gone out to bid and done construction. But we have a pretty good idea that the cost of tying into the city water line would be in a range of $4,000 a household. This is where we were when we started. Since that time, we got even more help from the state on items such as laterals, well abandonment, and things of that nature, which are eligible for reimbursement in cases where people actually tie in. So as far as the numbers are concerned, we're going to go through them, but they still need to be refined and finalized, and they can't be until we know how many people are gonna tie in, who's not gonna tie in, who's gonna abandon their well, who's gonna retain their well and put in a backflow preventer. And there are a whole host of variables that we need to know the answers to before we can give final numbers. So I note that in what we sent you, we gave everyone the date of May 12th to respond. And I'm pretty sure tonight after this public hearing, we will extend that date and give you more time to respond. We want everyone to have all the information that's available to us so everyone can make informed decisions. We're not going to finalize this tonight, but we're going to listen. We're going to keep refining it a little further, and then we'll have a special meeting later this month. So with that background, we then went out and sent people some further refined numbers, estimating what your costs would be for a 20-year term under this plan with 3 scenarios. If you tie in and abandon your well, if you tie in and don't, or if you don't tie in. So that was intended, to give everyone ballpark figures of where we are and to give you a chance to think about it, but also to come here tonight, ask questions, get the details, get as much information as you can so that you can all make informed decisions. And we are going to extend that date, but there is going to be a cutoff date where we have to know how many people are tying in before we can proceed to finalize the project. So I think at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Craig from the Connecticut Water Company to give you a little more detail to address some of the questions that we know about. And then we'll turn it over to Santiago, who will take it into a little more detail. Then we'll open it up to the public. So Craig, why don't you take it from here and bring everyone up to speed.
All right, thank you, Mayor. What was the date of that first hearing that we had?
Jim?
Oh, we had one in September of 2019. We had one in January of 2020. We had 2.
So we've been at this for a year and a half. And I remember that first night, we had a room full here, and there were varying levels of different kinds of desperation throughout that community. And at that time, we didn't quite know what to do, how to do it, but we committed to do something. The town, the borough of Naugatuck did, and we committed to be at their side as they did it. There have been many stops along the way from that night to tonight. And seemingly at every one of those stops, the story has gotten a little brighter and a little better, and to the point where we are today. And this is what they call a true 3P project. It's a public-private partnership. And when you engage with the state of Connecticut, and Cam has been our liaison for all of those interfaces. We have the community of Naugatuck, and you have the private water company, all engaged in the pursuit of a solution here. I would say that in my 31 years in the water business, this is what they call hitting it out of the park. And this is in the interest of those people on that first night that were really desperate for what they need, water. So as we sit here tonight, the progress on the project has gone from serving those people in need to serving the entire loop of the community, to providing not just domestic service into into the community for drinking, bathing, brushing your teeth, and everything in between, but also needed fire protection within that community too, in the addition of 5 hydrants. The price tag for the project as it stood, as it stands, is north of $1 million. Nothing to sneeze at. But through the application process and the state revolving fund process and the eligibility applications that were put forth by our partners at the state, we were able to achieve over $600,000 of that in form of some sort of either subsidy or grant. Santiago can give you the exact numbers, but that's remarkable. Remarkable number that we're able to get here and apply to this project. The fact that we're going to loop it and provide fire protection and water quality benefits by looping provided me with the opportunity to contribute to the project as well in the form of $200,000. 600, 200, we're at 800 of the million. We've got a balance there that we need help with from the community to fulfill the partnership, and that's where we are tonight. So I think we have received a number of questions, rolled through a couple of sheets with Santiago, but as we sit here tonight, it does not get better than this from an availability of funds to really bring a needed utility into a need-worthy community here. So I'm proud of the group that really worked on this thing. And when we said we were going to go to work for you, I can tell you the mayor really did, as well as Jim and Ned and everybody else. It's just it's something to be said. It's a model project for how things ought to be done, and glad to be part of it. They're at your pleasure. It's worth going through each of the questions themselves that were provided, or we want to take questions from the crowd.
Why don't we let Santiago go next and then we'll go from there?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just like to add one note to all the other agencies who've assisted this project, not to leave anybody out. EPA has contributed to the project via grant, so thanks to them for partnering with everyone else. I'd like to address some of the specific questions that we've received. So I'm going to go through this list. Might not be a comprehensive, but I'm going to hit the most important questions that I've seen a few times. Let's start with what is the anticipated schedule for this? I have a project schedule, and based on preliminary schedules, if we go to bid this summer, it might be approximately March 2022 for completion. So it really depends on when we start, but we think within 8 to 10 months of construction, it could be done. Next question, who will be performing the work? The way the project will go is a general contractor will be awarded based on a low bid process. The general contractor will be in charge of installation of the water main throughout the loop and taking the service lines, which is the copper tubing line from the curb to your house, to each of the residents. And I'll go more into the detail of that work in just a minute. Okay, so talking about that copper line going to the people's homes. As part of the project, we're gonna specify that the copper line not only goes from the water main to the curb, which is the standard for a water main installation project, but from the curb to your house, including the penetration through the wall into the people's basements, approximately 3 feet for to prepare for the installation of the water meter. The water meter is supplied and installed by the Connecticut Water Company. More on that in a second. Where is the water coming from? Will the water be pre-treated for hardness, pH, chlorine, fluoride, etc.? The Connecticut water, the water comes from the Connecticut water well serves that area, that neighborhood. Actually, the water main goes to Autumn Bridge, which is right next to Crestwood Drive. As far as treatment and all public water utilities are required to meet all EPAs and all state regulations. The Connecticut Water meets all of the state and federal state regulations for chlorine, fluoride, etc. Another question here. Okay, I think everybody went through that about the foundation wall. Let me talk briefly about the internal plumbing. There are some questions about what is the resident in the hook for? What's the responsibility as far as the work inside the house would be not included in the project is the internal plumbing, which entails disconnecting whatever water treatment they have in their home and tying in from the meter to their plumbing, to their internal plumbing. Another question is, will the water be turned on as the line is run or when the line is complete? I think this could be done in phases. We typically do 1,000 feet of water main installation, and we start to install the water service lines to the water main as we test and chlorinate the main. So we don't have to do the entire water main around the loop. We can do 1,000 feet at a time. So people can start to see the services going active as the project moves along. Again, when and where is the meter set and by whom? I already went through that. One note is if your house is farther away than 150 feet, correct me if I'm wrong, Alfred, then the water meter is not going to be in the basement. It's going to be outside, closer to the road in a meter box, because the meter has to be read from the street. Is that correct? Correct. Does the tie-in reach to the back of the house where the existing well is? So the answer is yes. I'm gonna need your cooperation. If you decide to be in the project, you need to call me and tell me where your well is located, where is the best location for the penetration of the water service line. So I'm gonna need to work with you so that I can put that into the plans. That way, that reduces the amount of work. We want to make it as cost effective and as efficient. We want to bring the service line to the closest well to your plumbing. So I'm going to need every one of the residents who decide to be in the project to tell me where is the best location for that service line. What is the quality of the town water? Again, we are required to meet all EPA regulations. If you want a specific information about water quality for Naugatuck, you can go to connecticutwater.com and you can go under reports in Naugatuck. You're going to see a full report on water quality. How are water alerts, oil notices issued? Connecticut Water informs customers directly whenever they may be affected by a water quality issue or when a system disruption can be expected. How is the water meter monitor. Is monitor, is read from the street. Do we monitor the actual meters, Fred?
We read the meters quarterly, and they'll be fitted with radio transmitters so that they can be read from the street.
Okay. Monitor. So, in the application to the Connecticut Water Company, it is stated that the applicant is responsible for all excavation, backfill, and restoration. Does that apply to this project? No, it does not. The excavation, backfill, and restoration of external grounds will be included in the project scope.
I think one of the questions dealt with where does the water come from? And all the water in Naugatuck comes from 5 separate surface water reservoirs located in either Naugatuck itself or the surrounding towns that all have water piped to our water treatment plant off of Fort Hill Road right here in Naugatuck as well. We have a conventional surface water treatment plant there. It's been in operation since 1989. Continues to service town, borough of Naugatuck and the surrounding towns. And we, like Santiago indicated, we meet all federal EPA and state DPH drinking water regulations. When you're tied to us, you will have water 24/7, 365, regardless if there are power outages, hurricanes, winter storms, any thing that comes along that you may have typically gotten used to going without water. You will not have to live through that now. Our water system is set up to provide water under all of those conditions.
Okay, thank you, Greg. I think that's basically the 4 questions I wanted to go through. One more question. Will the water main be buried under the road or adjacent to the road? Under the road as much as possible. I think that's, we want to align the water main under the road where it's easier to access for repairs. That way we also keep outside of damaging people's lawns as much as possible. With that, Mayor, I'll
Okay,
turn it over to you.
so I'm going to begin to open it up to the public for comment or questions. Also note that if anyone has questions even after tonight, you can continue to contact Jim McGrath and we'll do whatever we can to answer those questions. But at this time, I'm going to open it up to the public. Please state your name and address, and our IT guy, Jim K, will somehow find you. So, raise your hands or somehow let us know you'd like to speak. And we're now open for public comment or questions.
Hello.
Hi, go right ahead.
Hi, Jackie from 289 Crestwood. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So we have a question as far as once we are tying in from the foundation to our water service, is that something that is required a permit for? Do we as individual residents have to pull a permit for that? We've had some questions. Some people asked about that.
Right.
Yes, you do have to pull a permit from the building department. Yeah, the tradesman, the plumber who's going to do the work would typically pull that permit.
Okay, and then I do have a comment as far as residents that are on. I am working with a couple different plumbers at this time who we are trying to get the best rate if possible. If you are interested, and obviously it's no obligation, if you have your own personal plumber that you wish to go with, that's obviously okay. But we are trying to get one or only a few plumbers to do as many houses as possible and give us the best rate for doing multiple houses. So if anybody is interested in possibly getting in on that, I don't have specific numbers at this time. I do have calls out to a couple people, but if anybody is interested in that, they can get in touch with me. You, at this point, everybody should have my number and email. But if that's anything anybody else is interested in getting on the other side of Crestwood, please get in touch with us and we'll try to get the lowest rate, the best discounted rate for multiple houses using the same plumber to hook up.
Right, that's a great idea. We encourage you to do that. And just remember, we're struggling to get the exact number of people. You will need that same number to give to the plumber so we can, the higher it is, probably the lower the price is at. So we'll stay in touch with you so we know how many people are going to elect to tie in. And the sooner we know that, the better. So we will be extending that date from May 12th out. And then whatever that date turns out to be, you really need to know who's going to commit to tie in.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
What about the back?
Oh, what?
Water feed.
Oh, oh, sorry about that. In some cases, well, in most cases, the wells are in the back of the house. In reference to that question, on the rear of most of the houses, at least in the first 1,000 feet, the ground is level with the utility rooms floors. So how does that work as far as being that the line is going to be 3 feet under? How is that going to tie in? Would it be better off coming in through the front and going up through the house? Or, because I'm not sure how it would enter through the foundation, being that it would be 3 feet underground, it's going to be in the solid concrete and have to come then straight up into the utility rooms.
Tiago.
Sure, so I think that's a great question, and I think it's gonna vary, it's gonna depend on each residence. Some people have finished basements, some people don't. So if you tell me my well is on the back, in the best way is to route the service line through the back of the house, we'll draft the plans like that. If your basement is finished and it's extremely rocky on the back and you would rather have us do the service lines from the front, that's fine as well. So again, it's on a house by house basis, I would say.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Jim, keep going.
All right.
Yeah, I know. Linda.
Linda,
It's me.
Hi, what was,
Speak up.
I forgot what I,
Oh, the price for,
does anybody have an idea what it costs to hook up to the house if we hire our own plumber?
Name and address.
yeah, we need your name and address, Linda.
Oh, Linda Lawson, 63 Crestwood Drive, Naugatuck. Well, yeah.
All right, Jim, do we have any estimates on that?
Sorry, would you repeat the question?
Linda, repeat the question.
An estimate of what it would cost for a plumber to hook up from the curb to the back of the house.
So again, the service line is what we call the copper tubing line. It's a 1-inch copper from the water main to the house. That's going to be included in the project, and the resident doesn't have to pay that direct. That's thanks to, again, the EPA, the Connecticut Water, the Department of Health is subsidizing so much of that work that is gonna be included in the project, right?
I think she's asking about what her plumber's gonna charge.
Yeah, just an estimate, a ballpark figure.
I've talked to a couple of plumbers. Again, it all depends upon, where the lines are. It could be $500. It could be $1,300. It all depends upon where the lines are in the house and the work that has to be done to connect the meters. So,
Internal plumbing, which is asking about.
yeah, the internal plumbing. So,
So that's gonna vary depending on.
right, but we've heard a couple numbers, 500 to like $1,300.
Santiago,
Okay, yeah, fair enough, thank you.
Yeah, what Jim was saying, I think it's gonna vary slightly. If you have a finished basement, then they have to do some level of.
No, I do have a finished basement, but it's on the other half of the house, so that wouldn't interfere.
Yeah, so.
Each house in that area is gonna be unique, and it's gonna need to have an assessment done by a qualified plumber to make a determination on just what the level of work is gonna be required, and the cost will follow along with that. Some homes will be lucky and be able to tie into a cold water line that's close to the front of the house, and will minimize the internal plumbing required. But if it is only half-inch and you're there, your plumber may recommend that you run 3/4 inch a line to the back of the house to make sure that you have constant pressure throughout the house, and every time you flush the toilet, the shower doesn't go off upstairs. You've got to make sure that the internal plumbing can handle the water that's being provided there. It will truly be unique for every circumstance of every home up there.
And again, going to what Jackie Wall said, she lives at 289 Crestwood, and you can talk to her, and she will try and gather as many people as she can to get the best price, from the plumber who will have to visit your house.
Okay, now Jackie Wall lives at what address?
289.
289. Does she have a phone number?
I don't have it, but I'll see if I can find it. Move on to the
Can you put it in the chat?
yeah, have her put it in the chat, and if it doesn't happen, we'll get it for you.
Okay.
Jim?
Yep, moving on. Trina,
Hi, I'm Trina Ashagi. I'm at 54 Crestwood Drive. I wanted to clarify my understanding of the cost to the homeowners. Is it just one set price regardless of where your house sits in location to the street as far as the line that runs up to the house?
That cost will be covered as part of the contract.
Right, so if you elect to tie in, and let's just say you're going to abandon your well, or you're not, that cost is part of the project and will be in the overall number that you get for an assessment. Now, remember, assessments are different for if you tie in and abandon your well and take advantage of the entire program, that's one approach. Some people are not going to tie in at all, and their assessment will be much lower. And then we sent out the 3 scenarios in a letter to each household. So you should already have that information. If you don't, we can get you any number you want as an estimate right now, knowing that they could vary slightly, as we go forward.
Okay. Okay, yeah, thank you. I was just trying to clarify that it was just if I choose to tie in that it's not based on, certain number of feet from the road, and then it's an additional, because like my house, it's very high up and very far back, so.
Oh, same price.
Okay, that's why I was just curious. Okay, thank you.
For those who want the number, Jackie Wall's number is 860-951-9200. 2087.
Okay, Jim. Good catch.
All right. Lamar,
Hello, this is Elma Solomon. We originally paid the $500 to, when this thing started first. So now we have the application for water service connection. Is it my assumption that we have already filled the application, or do I need to then send in this by the 12th?
She already paid the 500. so-
You have to fill in the application because that will be used to set up your account at Connecticut Water Company. And they need to know whether or not you are going to retain your well or abandon your well.
Right, but she doesn't have to pay the 500.
There is no there's no cost.
Correct. So to reiterate that, I'm gonna need from everyone who's already paid the $500 to send me a filled out application to my email account. I'm sure it wasn't the letter that was last sent by your office, Mayor. So fill it out, email it to me, and I will call you for more information on the location of your well and your internal plumbing so that I can route the service line.
But ask
But
him.
you were here.
And
He never said his name.
anything else to add?
Ms. Solomon, what is your address, please?
228 Crestwood Drive.
And who?
Could you tell me the name of the person who said that I should send the information to him, please?
If you look in the letter that we sent, there's a page that says attachments. On that page, at the very bottom, it talks about the application, and Santiago's address and email address are there.
Okay, thank you.
Or to Santiago.
Mhm.
Okay, Jim.
And then we've got one. We have two in chat, so if you turn out the chat. we've got, don't know who, the chaplain was confused in regards to hiring a plumber. That work was being done by the water company.
Well, we
Well, we covered that, but I just.
covered that. yeah.
Okay. Alicia is, why is it costing so much to opt out for 20 years? That's a big commitment. What if we wanted to sell our house and now we have this extra fee to add on to the sale? And we spent a lot of money on our well system. We're not prepared to spend $3,000 for water. Are we not even, that we are not even opting into, we're at 29 Crestwood.
All right, so there's several levels to that question. The first one is that when there is an assessment by law, everyone on the street has to be assessed. So the assessment does apply to everyone. You know, some people get a great benefit. In your case, you're electing not to tie in. When you sell your home, the buyer will do a title search and they will see that there is an assessment if you sell within the next 20 years. So that becomes a matter of negotiation. You can pay it off, charge more for your house because you have water, or you can, are they allowed to send it to a subsequent buyer by assignment? I mean, we allow it. So the alternative is that you could negotiate with your buyer that they will take over your assessment. So if you sell 5 years in, they would have to pay for the remaining 15 years, and that would become part of your price negotiation when you sell your home. So, so there's no way out of being assessed. When you sell your home, you have to be smart about it and negotiate your price so that you are selling a house with water, which should be more valuable, A, and B, you should negotiate it in your interest with your buyer.
Alicia has a question for verbally.
Yeah. All right.
Go ahead, Alicia.
Hi, how are you? I'm here with my husband. So
Your address, please.
we're at 29 Crestwood Drive.
Okay,
I also have a question about the fact that this is all ledge up here. What will happen when you need to blast? Will other homes be at risk for fissures in their foundations? Will there be disruptions? Like, what are we talking about as far as that's concerned? You know, I know we tried to even just put a deck on and just to dig to the level that it was acceptable to put a footing in was ridiculous with just the amount of blasting that was needed and the amount of, you know, rocks and junk that was in the soil. I can't even imagine what you're talking about when you're talking about how many homes up at the top there that are all ledge. So what is that gonna involve? And, you know, what about all the other homes in the area? Will the water company be liable for all of that if they do damage the other homes in the area?
the blasting is basically regulated by the fire marshal. There's insurance involved and a whole host of ways to protect homeowners. However, as far as the cost of construction, ledge will cost more. The costs will go up.
It'll be a unit price for ledge removal.
Yeah, so if you have a lot with no ledge, your cost is zero. There will be a unit pricing adjustment. If they have any ledge, just significant ledge.
Or, I'm sorry, repeat.
For an additional pricing per unit would be less. It's, you know, like 4 homes have ledge, we say, what would happen?
Well, there'll be a unit price by the cubic yard for rock removal for the entirety of the project.
Right.
So it'll all be lumped into the base price once
So it's divided by, the cost is divided by.
yeah, it'll flow down to the lump sum price paid for the overall contract.
All right, so if that happens, the extra cost of ledge will be factored into the total cost of the project and divided by the number of homes on the street.
A clarification, and it was a good question, to my comment as to where to send the application. You can do one of two things, okay? You can either send it to Santiago Bolanos, or if you want, and you are going to pay your deposit at the same time, if you bring your check and you bring the completed application to the lobby of the town hall, I will make sure that all the information is scanned and sent to Santiago. That may make it simpler and easier for you.
Another question for those of us who enjoy our clean well water, with the blasting that could very well happen further up, what are the chances and what are the probabilities of underwater springs that supply our wells be destroyed or moved that accrue higher costs to those of us who enjoy what we have right now?
There's really no way to answer that question without, you know, a hydrological study, but Greg, do you want to take a shot at it?
You know, there's you know, insurance and hold harmless provisions built into the contract. The successful bidder for the project will have to carry the necessary insurance to protect not only the borough but the surrounding areas for all activities. Most notably, and to your question, would be for blasting activities. Typically, on line blasting like that, you know, they may choose to do and the town may require a pre-blast survey, which would get an indication of the condition of things like your basement or your water supply, so that they can baseline what the previous state of those assets were. But that'll all be determined as the project unfolds.
I would add one thing to that. I think we'll need to differentiate the type of blasting to hydrofracking, where we're talking 5-6 feet deep for the installation of a water main against the depth of some of your wells, which are quite deep to over 300 feet. So we're talking about being very much on the surface against being very deep where your water table would be found.
Okay, we have one more from Brian. Go ahead, Brian. Brian?
He's on mute.
Either he's not there, I can't unmute him because he muted himself. So,
Ryan, you're on mute.
Brian, try to unmute yourself.
How's that?
Much
There you
better.
go.
Okay, thank you. Brian Stockton, 160 Holly Street.
Okay.
And I know I'm pretty far away from Crestwood, and I'm actually like 180 feet to my basement from the curb. And just seeing how we're gonna adjust the price, or if the price will change for me.
So he's on Holly Street in Naugatuck, and he's, I don't know, 150 feet or so away from the line. He's
Right.
requesting to tie in. So can that be accommodated? B, if so, how does it differ? What extra costs does Brian have? Is that your question, Brian?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a little preliminary at this point, Brian. I mean, Brian, you do have property frontage on Crestwood?
I do. My border comes to a point on right at the curb.
He's on the radius as you go up from Gale Drive. He is between houses 155 and 159, so his access is on the curve. And
Right.
down into his property on Holly Street.
So it sounds like a pretty unique scenario there that we would need to probably send Santiago out there to get a glimpse of it and make sure that we're answering these questions appropriately, because
Okay.
it sounds a bit unique there. So why don't we tag into you specifically,
So we'll go
Mr.
out.
Stockton, and we can address your questions there.
How wide is the area on the radius that he has? Do you know, Jim?
It's not much. It's probably maybe a 40 or 50 foot.
Well, it's enough to take 40, 50 feet. Plenty.
I mean, it's between these two houses, and it's right in here. So Brian, what would you guess it is, 40 feet?
40 feet from the curb to my house?
No. The width of the frontage on Crestwood Drive.
I don't have that available in front of me. It's
we'd have
it's
to-
somewhere it's something like that, 30, 40 feet.
Yeah, probably, yeah,
So that's good.
yeah. There's plenty of room to take. All right, so Brian, you have
Yep.
Santiago's phone number in the letter that we sent you today. Please contact him at that number, and he'll make the arrangements to visit the site.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, Jim. Any further comments?
We have one in from Ms. Wall that says Crestwood Drive is already equipped with drainage and sewage lines. So any ledge issues would most likely be from the road to the home. It was just a comment that she put in the chat. Otherwise, it doesn't appear that we have any other.
All right, so let me just say it. We don't see anyone else looking for public comment, but I'm gonna call again. Is there any further public comment? We're gonna decide that at the board meeting.
Gotcha.
Any further public comment? All right, last call. All right. So, where are we on the agenda? All set? All right, so at this point, we have concluded public comment. We're not gonna act on this. It is on the agenda for the borough board meeting. We're not gonna take a vote on it tonight. But we are gonna maybe talk about it a little, keep it moving forward, and then bring it up for a vote when we have even more refined information that won't take too much longer. So I guess I'm suggesting that we close the public hearing. Let's also remember that anyone with questions can continue to speak to Jim McGrath or the water company.
We'll leave the public mailbox open.
Yeah, or, contact us, and we want everyone to have as much information as possible. Tonight, we're gonna extend the period to respond, I'll say by 2 weeks, 3 weeks, what do you think?
I'm actually thinking 3 weeks, quite frankly. I would prefer 2 weeks, but, I mean, there are 60 people who could participate in this project. They all got letters.
No, I know, but they're gonna get a common plumber and, there's a few things.
Yeah, but there's
that-
only 19 people who have even participated in the
We want
meeting.
that number to go up. So let's give them enough time
That's
to
why
get
I'm
the
saying you better
information.
go 3 weeks. That's
Okay.
right. That's right.
So 3 weeks good with you, Craig?
Yeah.
That keeps us on schedule with winter and everything?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right, so when we get to the borough board meeting, we will extend the period to respond to 3 weeks, by 3 weeks, and we will go from there. I'm gonna ask, is there anyone, any Burgess who, well, before I do that, Cam, is there anything that you want to say?
Thank you for letting us sit in with the Department of Health here. We look forward to working with the borough as well as Connecticut Water to get this project financed. I would say that, this is, and I've been doing this for 27 years, and this is the best financing package that we have put forth with the SRF for a project like this. So, it's a credit to everyone to pull this together, as Craig mentioned earlier. And we're excited that the residents, I've been getting calls from some of the residents out there for a few years now that have been without water, and I'm glad we finally were able to come up with a solution. So thank you
for all of your efforts, Cam. Thank you very much. All right, is there any Burgess who does not want to close the public hearing?
I have one question I'd like to ask while the experts are in the room.
Good, go ahead, Rob.
At the end of the day when work is done, I'm assuming every resident will have access to their driveway. If there's a trench, a plate will be put down. And also at the end of the project, will the road be paved curb to curb?
Can you repeat the last part of the question? I'm
You're
sorry.
trained.
Yeah, at the end of the project, will the road be paved curb to curb?
Won't be paid for-
So that really depends on the paving requirements of the town. Some projects, the town requires us to pave half the street where the water main is installed. I think we would have to review those requirements from public works and see what we can do about that, whether.
Well, okay, we have Jim Stewart here. So Jim.
We would be looking to add the streets to our fee and loop program. And we actually have it scheduled to be paved the year after with the following construction season of the project. Completed by March, we we would pave in the spring and following.
All right, so Rocky, the answer is that we would be looking with the utility companies to put it in our fee in lieu program to get some, get that money and repave the entire street.
Good. Yeah, I just want to make sure, if it's on the 5-year paving plan, that it's not going to be done 4 years out. All right,
And one more thing, if I would add to that question, if there's any work on your driveway, that would be covered under the restoration requirements of the contractor. So the contractor, we're gonna guide them to route the waterway as much as possible away from their driveways, but if any work needs to happen there, it would be required to restore it.
So the water company, the contractor will put in aprons if they're necessary?
If we have to go through your driveway, yes.
Thank you.
All right, and I should have asked before, I was remiss here. Is there any Burgess that would like to ask a question or make a comment? All right, so I'm going to ask for a motion to close the public hearing unless there's someone who wants to argue why it should stay open. All right, we have a motion that we close the public hearing. It's been seconded. Motion by Deputy Mayor Taft, seconded by Burgess Jankowski. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, the public hearing is closed at what time, Lori?
6:46.
6:46. 14 minutes.